All right. Good day, Texas Pelicans. Today we're going to try to do a short video on just hand grading. I'm using some of the grading tools in ORD. I know I've done some other ones, but hopefully have improved and we can make this a little more concise and show some of the cool tools that are available. This is for a project Marina is working on, Marina and I, in Chambers County, is that right? Let's see. And I've started with a 2D seed file and then referenced in some of the files that we're going to be using to help us in the grading. One, the roadway's got an alignment where they've got a preliminary profile, so we'll start with that. And then there's also, I found a terrain, hopefully, yeah, the terrain that covers the area, so I'll set that as our active terrain. Got an aerial, got the right-of-way, which will help us set things. Just before we get started, I'll start with giving us a coordinate system here. We're in the Texas South Central Zone. It's for good practice. Go ahead and assign that to the file. And I'll be just roughly getting things set up, and then Marina's probably going to do the fine tuning on this one. But this is a little bit of what we're going to try to accomplish. I think this bottom typical section is what they're going with. I know that this, did they say 31 was elevation, Marina? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is going to be done by others. They're going to put this berm that's 5 feet at elevation 31. So I'll probably just make some assumptions on where that is and put that in as kind of a boundary condition that we'll go by. And then our roadway, we have a total of 120 feet right of way, 48 foot wide roadway. That's going to be actually more like this. I think it's kind of a combination of what they're doing. So I know they're doing a super elevated section. So I'm going to assume something more like this as far as what's going on with the roadway. Cross slope to the inside and set some stuff up for that. And then put something in place for this berm that will be our existing condition. So let's go ahead and try to see what we can make happen. So we're in the open roads modeling here. We go to geometry. Probably start with doing an offset of the center line. Single offset, or let me see. Do just a partial, just for the part that we're going to really be focused on doing the grading for. So I'm going to move this out of the way and do a partial offset. This will just create a plan feature. I'm going to give it some kind of feature definition. Yeah, I'm not doing the actual model that the roadway is going to use, so I'll probably think of just use something more general. Let's see. I'm just going to use this. I know what it is. So I'm going to use road lane and start from seeing which way they got the stationing going. Is that? This will be an experiment, but I'm just going to put it, roughly where theirs is. Might even put it right on top. There we go. And then the ends, I'm going to go all the way down. For Marina and my purposes, I guess we can go do the whole thing and see what happens. Actually, I'll probably go to here. I'll probably go that whole part that they're super elevating. I think somewhere around here, they're going to switch it to a crown. So I'll do that. And then that has been created. And now I want to give that a profile. So I'm going to go lines, profile, geometry. Actually, use this option here. Slope from element is what I use a lot. I'll click. Then you just follow the prompts here. Locate elements profile. Let's then right click to accept reference element here. And I want to do exactly the same elevation. So I'm going to put 0% and then click through. And if I open up the profile of this element, it should have a vertical profile assigned now, as you can see. So let's look back at our typical now. I think we think it's about a 48-foot roadway. So I'm going to do another offset for my edge of pavement here at 24 feet. So let's see. I'm going to give this a different feature definition, do edge of pavement. We'll call that do a full offset entire element. So, and then we'll again do add road edge of pavement here and enter the offset of 24 feet. All right, so we can come back and adjust these later if we need to, but that'll create that. It has an option of mirroring it, so I do want to mirror it in this case, so I'll say yes. And then, so if I find out that the road is different later on, we can adjust these offsets by clicking on them. So we basically tied it to this line. Now I can give, we're basically going to cross up this towards the sandpit area for most of this stretch. If we're going to start projecting this profile onto these elements at a certain slope. So we'll do the slope from element again. I'll start with this one and follow the prompts again. Right click on the reference element. This time it's going to be -2% because we want it to go down. And okay, and then I'll do this one. And this time it'll be +2%. Okay, and then we're going to be tied between this edge of pavement where we have our ditch in this case, and then this right of way. And then on the other side of the right of way, there's going to be a berm. Let me measure the distance here. 54 feet. I think that's going to be consistent throughout. Here it's 36, so no, I was wrong about that. 36. I'm going to measure these radiuses, and then I'm going to create some elements. Well, if it lets me. It looks like it's not going to let me. So we know this top of berm is at 31, elevation 31. Let's look back at our typical frozen up here. And so I think they're doing it more like this bottom one is my understanding. So it's 31 and it's somewhere outside the right of way. I kind of have to make an assumption of how high it's going to be, unless I think they may have mentioned it in a previous meeting, but I forget. So I want to say it's 1.5 feet high at 3 to 1 or something that they were going to do. So we'll make this elevation at the right of way itself 29.5. So I'm going to add an element that's going to represent that to work within our grading. And for that, I'm going to call this I'll probably use something like this, something more generic, and just this, I'm pretty sure is a radius. I'm going to measure it just so I can do something more exact there. Yeah, it's a 800-foot radius. So I'm going to continue creating geometry, grade, earthwork proposed. It's going to be the base of our berm here. And then I'm going to do something, arc between elements, simple arc between this one and this one, give it 800 feet radius, and give it the same feature definition, grade, trim to both. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the right of way now that we got that in place. Yeah, going that way. So now I'm going to create a complex element going the same direction with that right of way line I drew. So complex by element. If you see, if I hover over it, it points the arrow there. So I'm going to click on it. And depending on where on the elements you're complexing, if I were to do it here, it would reverse the direction. So you got to be careful about that. But just point at the beginning, it keeps it going in the same direction you want. Click to accept it. And that's been complexed, although I put it on a different feature definition. So I'll change it back. Something I want. And so this is going to be our berm. What I'm thinking is I'll actually terrain the berm separately and then create a different one for our inside stuff. So let's go ahead and we thought this would be, I said 1.5 feet high at 3 to 1. So that's going to be, what's 1.5 times 3? 4.5 feet. So I'm going to offset this. Give it the same feature definition for this grade. And I'm going to go 4.5 feet. And this time I don't want to mirror. And then I'm going to do one more for the width of the berm once it responds again. That'll be the top of the berm. And then I'm going to do one more just for visual effects so we can see it. We know it's going to kind of grade down to the sand pit. So I'm going to do it maybe, just say 20 feet out. And then I'm going to give some profiles to these elevations. So let's do profile by constant elevation for this first one of 29.5, 29.5 here. And then let's do the top of berm at then I could, in case something changes, I'll do slope the element to the other one. Do this one here, click on it, right click on the reference element, this one, do 0% slope. Then I can do this one down here, and I'm gonna do this, reference it to this, and do a 3:1, which is minus 33.33%. Okay, and with this, I'll go ahead and create a terrain of just these elements. So I'll say create from elements, and I'll start with the two middle ones and do a break line, and we'll give it a name. We'll say some proposed contours. We'll start with breaks. So this one, there's got 4 elements here, so it'll be real easy. I'll just do 2, click on them, right click, feature type, left click, and then it creates some craziness because it needs a boundary. So I'm going to say add features, click on this terrain to add features, click on the boundary type, and go ahead and add this, left click boundary, and then it's got the berm created there. So that's going to be what we've got to constrain ourselves to. We got the roadway. I could actually, there's different options. I could make another terrain for this and then just have our ditch separately. But I think I'll, from here, create some geometry that we can work with. And you can play with this, Marina, as you get into actual refinement of what's making our ditches work. But what I'm thinking, like if we do some preliminary measurements here, what do we say we have to work with? We've got about 36 feet to work with between edge of pavement and our ditch. So, and say we want to have a 5-foot bottom width, say we're going for that. So that means we have 31 feet for the side slopes and geometry. Let's do this is ditch. And I'm going to give it ditch bottom center or ditch bottom, right? Ditch bottom front. That would be more precise. Modify things in here. And I could even probably modify the radius and play with that a little bit. Probably make this complex. Low. We could try it at least. We're just getting started. You get the idea. Ditch bottom front. Same direction. Okay, then I'll do an offset of that for the other side of the ditch. We'll call that ditch bottom back. And that will just be 5 beats. And I think that's really all the constraints I'm going to need because I want to make it work within. We might add some more later, but I want to kind of make it work between these. Our ditch work between these, and we have, we can even, Marina will be able to play with like the roadway profile and the ditch profile concurrently, get things to work. But we'll just start with this. So these have profiles assigned to them already. I think we did that, right? Yeah, got that, got that, got that. And now we could, these will have the same profile. What I could do is just to see it, if we do a profile by, well, with that space we have available, let's say the deepest ditch we're going to want is going to be, let's see, I'm having a hard time pulling anything else up because my computer seems to be acting up. So we have, what did I say, 36 feet here?
Yes.
Minus 5 is 31, say 15 on each side. That's roughly, well, yeah, it makes it, you think you have all the room in the world. Now that doesn't sound like that much room. That's maybe a 2-foot deep ditch from the edge of pavements.
What slopes are you using?
6 to 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think they said we could do 4 to 1 in the back slope, right?
Okay, so then, so if we do, yeah, if we get 1.5, we could get to and make work. So we're kind of, so what I'll do to help us see it is we'll do a slope from element. I'll just straight up project this. I'll do that. And I'll also project, this. It allows you to do more than one. So if I do this same element, right click, this one. Okay. And then as far as what elevation this one, so this one will be our controlling line. So I'm just going to profile this one exactly off of this one at 0%. We won't mess with that one again. But if I go to this one now, I've got this elevation. The top one is, I think that's the road, and then this 29.5 is the edge of berm. And so we'll just have those points of reference, knowing that we really can't fit much deeper than 2.5% or 2.5 feet in this ditch, it seems like. And we can go and do a profile and do a more manual profile on this. We can try complex by PI, and we can start with, our high point. We can keep it here, and then we can, now this locks up terribly. I haven't found a great way to stop it from doing that. But I'm just going to put a continuous profile. That was 0.14%, and we can adjust these later. How far did I make that down? So that's a good spot for having a outlet. So then we could go, see if it could let me go back up. Create a terrain of what we're wanting here, and then we'll see what happens when we change the profile. So let's go create another terrain from elements, and this time we'll call it grading. I'll start with the middle elements here. These middle 3 as break lines, resets. Then I'll add features to boundary like that. And now I'm not sure. Did I pick up these ditches? I should have done that, but I don't know if I did. Do you know, Marina? We'll see, I guess.
I don't want to say yes or no. I don't want to tell you wrong.
Let me add. I might not. It won't let me if I did. Let's see. It looks like I didn't add that. Yeah, I didn't add that one. I should. Okay. So we could look at a cross section here too. So if we do corridors, dynamic sections, open cross section view, go to something where I'm just clicking the alignment, and then left offset, somewhere over here, right offset somewhere over here. And let's put that in view 5. Okay, so you can see it kind of coming together. And now if I were to, I think it might, if we do this and make this the active profile, it's probably gonna change some things up in here. You see it moved the ditch to here, and then these slopes are just falling out wherever they are. This is being held. And so what we would have to play with is the profile of this ditch. And so if I made some adjustments here, I know this was like really flat, this first, if I brought that down. We can inspect these slopes, 0.45, that's decent. 0.27, I'd prefer a little more. Play with the design. So, and we can also, the way we've got it, so we're really flat over here. We see that we're probably steeper than we want to be off this slope. So we could play with, I think we made this one kind of our controlling one. So if we move this, it's kind of pushing things out. So it just becomes a matter of cleaning up the grading everywhere, at least for pushing the ditch where we want it to be, setting the profile where it's going to work. That's pretty much all I got for getting started on this. Now we'll have a lot of refinement to actually get this to work, how we want it to drain and meet all the criteria, but those are the elements we'll be playing with to get it to do so. Now we also can change this roadway profile, and this connects, I think we had, so we would, changing this would connect these two because we've tied them together, but these we've kind of kept separate. And so we'll just have to, there's a way to tie it to where we could hold this slope, but then it kind of constrains us with what we can do with the ditch profile. So we've chosen to play with this ditch profile so it can be separate and not necessarily tied directly to the roadway profile, but then we'll have to pay careful attention to places like this where we're probably too steep. That's all I got. We'll stop the recording. It's probably already too long.